Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. There are nights the sky is only sky, dark, distant, indifferent. And then there are nights like this one, when the heavens lean closer, as if listening. The kingdom of Lunaris slept beneath a silver horizon. Rooftops glimmering like frost laid gently across forgotten crowns. Lanterns swayed in slow wind. Bells chimed like memories dripping through ancient halls. And every shadow carried moonlight like a second pulse. For this was a land not ruled by sun or emperor, but by the Moonlit King. A monarch crowned by starlight, not by mortal hand. Some said he was born from the first night wind. Some whispered he once was human, a prince who stared into the moon too long, and was never the same again. Elders disagreed on what he was, but one truth never changed. The stars bowed to him. They did not merely shine, they obeyed. And tonight, after 1,000 quiet years, the world would remember why. In the heart of Lunaris stood the celestial palace, built not from common stone, but from pale glass and ancient moon metal, polished so smooth it reflected the sky, even when the sky refused to reflect anything at all. On the highest balcony, a young scribe named Arion kept watch. He was slender as a winter reed, his hair pale as river pearl, his hands stained with ink from nights spent copying forgotten myths. He should have been asleep with the others. This night was holy, sealed by law. No flame was to burn. No song was to be sung. No mortal eyes were meant to witness the Moonlit King's solitary walk beneath the sky. Yet Arion watched anyway, because curiosity is a god older than rule, and tonight it ruled him completely. He leaned over the cool rail of moonglass, gazing down at the garden below, where frost-pale roses trembled, as if waiting to breathe. Something was coming. He felt it in the heaviness of the silence, in the way even the wind held its breath. A soft sound cracked the stillness, not loud, no thunder, only the deep hum of inevitability, as the great doors of the palace opened by themselves. The air thickened with silver. Then he stepped through, tall as winter wind, pale as dawn never born, hair black as absence, falling like ink across robes woven from threads of starlight. But it was the crown that stole Arion's breath. Not metal, not stone, not jeweled craft. A ring of soft white fire floated above the king's brow, a perfect circle of moonlight, unbroken, unanchored, glowing with a calm that felt older than the world. His eyes carried celestial quiet, deep and endless as a sea no mortal had ever sailed. He moved like time was slowing down. To show respect, Arion's knees weakened. He wanted to look away. Humans were not meant to witness this, but awe held him. The king paused, as if sensing one heartbeat too many awake in the palace. Slowly, he turned his head. His gaze found Arion. The world exhaled. When stars bow, the sky changed. Stars trembled, not twinkling, but shivering like drawn blades. One by one, they began to lean, their light dipping downward, like lanterns lowering their heads. In reverence, Arion's mouth fell open. The constellations themselves were bowing. The hunter bent his shining head. The river arched lower across the night. The crown of the first queen dimmed its own radiance, as if kneeling. No story had exaggerated. The heavens truly obeyed the Moonlit King. But why now, after so many silent centuries? Light rippled across the firmament, a veil of silver waves over black silk. Then, for the first time in any story Arion had read, the moon flickered. Then, for the first time in any story Arion had read, the moon flickered, not dimmed, trembled, as if uncertain, as if alive. Arion whispered into the cold, "What is waking, my king?" No voice answered, yet something answered all the same. Not sound, not vision, but a presence, a pull in his chest, a thread of gravity spun from silver memory. Below, the king raised his hand. The sky folded like fabric. Auroras bled from horizon to throne, painting the night in slow, ghostly rivers of light. Arion felt tears on his cheeks, without remembering when they fell. This was not spectacle. This was omen. The king was summoning something, or someone, and the stars bowed, not just in devotion, but in fear. Moonlight thickened, not just glow substance, pouring into the palace gardens like liquid metal. It flowed toward the central pool, filling it, changing it, until the water no longer reflected the world above. Instead, it held broken pieces of time. Arion saw visions in the silver surface, a kingdom with no night, where the sky was a white wound, a throne of ice, empty and waiting, a comet crowned in bone, an eclipse eating its own shadow, and among them, for a single chilling heartbeat, a figure with the Moonlit King's face, but without the crown. Arion staggered back, his breath torn from him. The king might not be whole, might not be singular, might not be alone. Something ancient stirred deep beneath the palace foundations. Not monster, not God, but memory. And memory, Arion knew, is the oldest weapon. The scribe steps into the oath. He should have fled. He should have dropped to the floor, covered his head, and obeyed the old law. When the king walks alone, no mortal must walk at all. Instead, Arion turned and ran, down corridors washed with silver, past sleeping doors and silent statues, heart pounding like a drum for a forgotten ritual. He reached the garden entrance just as the moonlight finished filling the pool. The king stood at its edge, a still figure carved from calm. His crown burned without heat, drawing the eyes like tide draws the sea. Arion's feet slowed. He stepped onto the frost-silver grass, each crunch louder than it had any right to be. The king spoke first. "You should not be awake." His voice was soft, gentle as grieving. Arion bowed so quickly he nearly fell. "My king, the sky bows to you tonight." I could not close my eyes and pretend it was only a dream. The king regarded him with patient twilight. "Truth carries cost," he said. "Even moonlight cuts, if held too tightly." The ground shivered. The silver pool rippled. Beneath its surface, something ignited, a dim halo forming around a second unseen brow. Another crown. The air turned even colder. Arion understood with the sudden, sharp clarity of fear. Tonight the king was not entirely king. Tonight, something old and unfinished was coming back, and the stars bowed, because they remembered what Arion had not yet learned. The silver pool did not ripple like water, it breathed, ancient, slow, aware. Arion stood frozen at its edge while the Moonlit King faced the living mirror. Of moonlight, a second crown shimmered beneath the surface, dim, fractured, like an eclipse caught in crystal. This was no reflection. It was another king, the unfinished one. The moonlight surged upward, not downward, a reverse waterfall of silver, drawing the broken crown from beneath the world. The king above did not move. His shadowed twin rose step by step, breath by breath, as though reborn from forgotten night. Two crowns burned above two brows, one pure silver, one violet scarred. They were brothers, halves, one tempered by night, one sharpened by impatience. The stars bowed in terror, not devotion. The unfinished king smiled, a smile of longing, not malice. "You sealed me," he whispered. "I would have given the world eternal dawn, and blinded it with brilliance." Their voices clashed like tides of light and shadow. Crown met crown. Moonfire ruptured like broken dawn. Arion shielded his eyes as constellations dipped lower, trembling like prey, beneath a predator that once ruled them. Two kings, one destiny, a trial that could rewrite the sky. Arion stepped between night and unfinished day. Madness, bravery, the same. Color under moonlight. "My king," he said to both, "neither of you is whole." Two sets of celestial eyes turned, this time not with dismissal, but with recognition. "You are mortal," the Moonlit King murmured. "And that is why I see what you cannot." Arion pointed to the kneeling constellations. "They bow because they must choose one. But why must there be only one? Night needs dawn. Power needs restraint. You are not rivals, you are halves." Silence deeper than creation fell. The kings joined hands. Crowns brightened, merging like twin moons finally aligned. The stars did not bow. They knelt. The moment the two crowns aligned, silver and shadowed silver, the night shifted like a great beast turning in its sleep. Not violently, not with storm or thunder, but with the quiet inevitability of tides returning to shore. The stars, still kneeling in the black ocean of sky, flickered with something Arion had never seen before. Not fear, not reverence, expectation, as if the heavens themselves waited to see which king would rise whole, or which half would consume the other. The silver pool stilled to perfect glass. The garden froze as though carved into memory. No breath of wind, no whisper of leaf, just the sound of two hearts that once were one. The Moonlit King lowered his head, crown steady with patient winter. The unfinished king raised his chin, eyes bright with unfulfilled dawn. Both were magnificent, both incomplete. Arion felt the truth like a blade against the soul. The world could not bear two kings, but it could not survive one broken. If balance was not chosen tonight, night would swallow eternity, or dawn would burn the world hollow. There was no middle path, unless someone built one. Arion stepped closer to them, a mortal between two miracles. The crowns pulsed at his approach. One shimmered soft silver, calm as still water. The other burned violet white, fierce as a star trying to be born. Arion felt their pull like twin tides in his chest, one asking him to kneel, the other asking him to obey. He did neither. He spoke instead, careful as a dream one fears will break if touched too hard. Majesties, neither of you is wrong. Two nearly identical faces turned toward him, one softened by centuries, one sharpened by yearning. Arion continued, "You are night and dawn, memory and desire, stillness and fire. A king must carry both." The unfinished king's eyes narrowed, not hostile, but exposed. "And which of us," he asked softly, "carries both?" Arion's answer was a breath, not a proclamation. "Neither yet." The Moonlit King's gaze lowered. He knew Arion spoke truth. A king needed patience and ambition, silence and voice, restraint and hunger. To be whole, he must hold every contradiction without breaking. The unfinished king whispered, almost broken, "Then finish me." The Moonlit King closed his eyes. A single tear of silver fell, glowed on impact with the pool, and sank like a star returning home. The crowns rose, not lifted by hand, but by destiny. They circled each king like moons preparing eclipse, silver trails weaving, splitting, mending. Arion felt light crawl up his skin like frost made of stars. He stepped instinctively forward, palms open. The crowns turned, both, and faced him. The Moonlit King whispered, "You would carry our union?" Arion's heart slammed once against his ribs. He understood now. "You would carry our union?" Arion's heart slammed once against his ribs. He understood now. He was not chosen as witness. He was chosen as bridge. His mortality, fragile, brief, imperfect, was exactly what neither king possessed. A god cannot balance itself, but a mortal can. He bowed his head. "If you will give me night, and dawn, and trust, I will carry both." The Moonlit King extended his hand. The unfinished king extended his own. Arion placed his hands in theirs, and the sky shattered open like a pearl. Light poured into him, not gentle, not slow, but glorious and terrible. Silver flooded his veins like moonfire. Violet seared his bones like newborn dawn. Memory sharpened into blade-edge clarity. Desire bloomed like a star learning to burn. Arion cried out, not in pain, but in vastness. He saw every night that ever was, every dawn that ever tried to rise, every king who wore the moon and broke beneath it. He understood then, no crown is gift, every crown is price. The light nearly consumed him. He felt himself dissolving, a page burning into thought, ink scattering into stardust. But then, he remembered ink on his hands. He remembered pages he had copied. He remembered breath. He remembered being small, and that smallness anchored him. He was not born to be endless. He was born to choose. He held night in one hand, and dawn in the other, and said, with voice steady as anchored moon, not one, not two, whole. The crowns fused over him. silver and violet, patience and desire, a ring of twilight flame. Arion collapsed to his knees, chest heaving like sky remade. The kings stood before him, no longer two, but one, the Moonlit King reborn, not patient without hunger, not brilliant without mercy, balanced, complete, whole. The stars rose, not bowing, but shining like prayers answered. The garden thawed. Roses flushed pale gold at their edges, as if touched by first morning. The Moonlit King knelt before Arion, not in submission, but in gratitude. You carried night and dawn, he said, and you did not break. Arion, still trembling with cosmic ache, whispered, I am only mortal, and that, the king replied, is why you succeeded. He placed a hand over Arion's heart. Rise, moon-bearer. Arion stood, not king, not god, but the one who carried the moon, so the king could carry the world. The stars shone brighter, a sky reborn, the silver pool dimmed, his purpose fulfilled, and at the edge of vision, something stirred beneath deeper night, gold faint as a promise, the next crown waiting. The journey was not done, but the world had taken its first balanced breath, and the stars, no longer kneeling, danced. The sky had changed, not dramatically, not with thunder or fire, but with the kind of change that lives inside breath, inside silence, inside the stillness before fate speaks its next sentence. Where once stars bowed trembling, they now danced. Slow at first, hesitant, uncertain, like children learning to walk beneath a new dawn, but then brighter, clearer, stronger, as if the entire firmament remembered joy. Arion felt it in his bones. Not power, not divinity, but responsibility. The weight of moon and dawn did not elevate him above the world. It bound him to it. The Moonlit King stood reborn before him, silver and gold woven into new balance. Night refined by dawn, dawn humbled by night. His crown was no longer pure silver, but threaded with warm gold. He no longer cast shadow, he carried one. You are moon-bearer, the king said softly. What would you have me do? Arion asked. The king turned toward the horizon. Far beyond Lunaris, a faint light flickered. Not silver, not violet, gold. A crown waiting, a throne untouched, the next trial. There were 3 crowns forged at the beginning of night, the king said. Silver is memory, shadow is desire, gold is will, and will, the king warned, is the most dangerous of the 3. If the golden crown woke fully, stars would not kneel. They would fall. Arion walked alone by choice. The world beyond Lunaris was strange and half asleep. Forests whispering in memory, shores returning voices instead of shells, mountains dreaming stone dreams. On the 7th night he reached the ridge of dawnless peaks. There it floated, the golden crown. Alive, hungry. It wanted him, wanted to be worn, rule, and doubt, and balance, and choice. Gold was not evil. Gold was certainty, and certainty kills wonder. Arion reached toward it, not to accept, but to refuse. I am moon-bearer, not king. The crown shattered into 7 beams of light, scattering across the world like seeds of destiny. waiting for a bearer who wanted too much. He returned to Lunaris beneath a sky reborn. "The golden crown has scattered," he told the king. "Then the hardest path begins," the king answered. Arion was no longer merely scribe. He was seeker, guardian of balance, moonbearer, and a new truth settled into the world. When the seven wills reunite, even the moon will bow. Arion walked beneath a sky that remembered him, not as a king nor as a legend, but as the mortal who held two crowns, and chose balance over dominion. Moonlight moved with him like breath, silver shadows following his steps, as if night itself refused to let him walk alone. But he was alone. The Moonlit King remained in Lunaris, holding the heavens steady, while Arion walked into the unknown after 7 fragments, pieces of the golden crown, pure while searching for a bearer. If someone united them, dawn would never set again. Choice would die. Balance would end. He walked to prevent that fate. The first fragment called him to the northern mists. The Euremus forest waited in breathless silence. No birds, no wind, only a presence. A whisper pressed into his bones. Bow. Not a voice, a force. A command of existence itself. Arion whispered back with will. "I do not bow." The mist split. The forest revealed a clearing. At the center, a floating shard of gold, heartbeat of command incarnate. Obedience. It sensed him, tested him. It spoke without sound. "Obey me." Arion's knees trembled. The shard tried to rule his body, his breath, his thoughts. Visions flooded him, a peaceful world without resistance. No war, no doubt, no conflict, just silence, order, obedience. A world without choice. His legs buckled. He remembered ink-stained nights. He remembered stars dancing instead of bowing. Balance matters because struggle lives. He stood again. Obedience without choice is death. The shard screamed, silent golden fracture, and broke against his defiance. He took it, held it, claimed it. The fragment fused into his soul like a newborn star. He could command now, but he would not. That was balance. The sky dimmed. One star went out. Something across the world sensed him. Not the king. Not the moon. A rival. Lightning crawled across the horizon, gold. A hunter of crowns had awakened. Arion stepped from the forest, and the world no longer felt empty. Someone wanted the crown, not to protect choice, but to end it. The second fragment pulsed in the east. Arion tightened his cloak. He would seek the shards, not to wear the golden crown, but to keep it from ever being whole. Because a world ruled by one will, even a righteous one, is a world without wonder. He walked into the star-watched dark. Arion walked beneath a sky that burned with warning. Where moonlight once guided him gently, now stars watched with attention he could feel in bone and breath. The first golden fragment, obedience, glowed beneath his ribs like a captured sun, and though it lay quiet, it was never silent. With every heartbeat, it reminded him, you could rule, you could command, you could end struggle forever. Yet Arion pressed forward. Balance is not kept by silence. It is kept by choice. Ahead stretched the endless plains of Vizera, a horizon of black grass shimmering gold at its edges, as though each blade whispered while struggling not to awaken. The second fragment waited here, and someone else waited for him beside it. The hunter, lightning in human form, hair like molten gold, eyes burning like fragments already claimed. She stood on the field, unarmed and unmoving, not waiting, owning. "Moonbearer," she said, "you carry one fragment." He stayed silent. "I am Leora," she continued, "chosen not by kings, but by desire itself." The shard inside Arion trembled. It recognized her. Desire calls to desire. "Give it to me," she said softly, "and I will give you a world without hesitation, peace without choice." He breathed. "I protect choice," he said. She smiled. "Then fight for it." Golden lightning split the sky. Leora commanded not with blade, but with intent. "Yield." The force struck Arion like collapsing stars. His knees trembled. His thoughts flickered. "Yield, yield, yield." He almost did. Almost. But he remembered ink and moonlight, stars dancing instead of kneeling. "I kneel to no crown," he said. The shard inside him burned silver violet. Moonlight braided with dawn, and the command shattered. They clashed like forces older than language. Her will golden and absolute, his balance twilight and unbreaking. She struck with temptation. Be king. Wear the crown. Rewrite eternity. For a breath he wanted it. But perfection is cage. He let her power pass through without taking root. Desire cannot control one who does not crave. The second shard rose from behind her, drawn not to strength, but to choice. Leora gasped. "No!" Too late. The fragment fused into Arion like second dawn. Power surged, but he remained himself. Two shards now. Obedience. Desire. Will. Want. Leora stepped back. Not defeated, but evolving. "This isn't over," she whispered. Arion turned to the horizon. More fragments pulsed across the world, and somewhere another hunter walked the same path. Balance is not won once. It is guarded forever. "I will not let one crown rule alone," he swore. Across the world the Moonlit King felt those words, and whispered them to the stars. "Walk, Arion, and I will hold the night until you return." Balance walked into darkness, and darkness, for the first time in eternity, walked with him. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.